Deputy Vice Chair. You can, you're fine.
Michelle Fitzpatrick, secretary.
And on Zoom is,
Kristen Distante, member.
you got to give us a view of your surroundings, Kristen.
Well, I can't, I think it's like, it's either video or,
Oh, she might
Um,
not have.
I had video, but now it seems like it's. If I,
She's out on the water. Anyway. All right, there we
There
go.
you are.
Oh, my goodness.
Woohoo.
There
That's
we go.
awesome.
Very
Uh,
aquatic.
Vineyard Haven.
Nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. Okay, so the first news of the night is that Conrad Heedy has been nominated and approved by the town manager to join this august group.
That's pretty cool.
So
That's pretty cool.
I've been exchanging some notes with him. So he did say he had a problem tonight being here, but I expect him in the future, and I did send him the POCD list of activities, et cetera, for him to say he got picked. So I said, this, we do things in with our group, so I expect him to join next week. So we're now
Next week.
fully invested.
Fully
staffed.
manned.
Yeah,
No,
I've been.
fully staffed is good. Fully staffed is correct. Yes.
Well, staff is staff.
Well,
Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah.
fully commissioned.
Fully
How's
commissioned.
that?
Anywho, let's move along because I know some people got to get out of here early. So the next item of business is approval of minutes of May 1st and May 8th. So I will look for a motion to approve both those.
I move we approve the minutes of both meetings as presented.
Second.
Now, let's say, is there any comments, changes? They're pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
Oh,
I
yes.
just had a comment on my, the estimation that I had heard of the crowds at the Eco Fair was 1,900. It's been revised, to my understanding, to 1,500. So maybe we should change it to reflect that.
You got it.
Okay, that's good. Any other comments or changes? All right, so the vote will be for the amended. What?
May
What
1st.
number? What number?
May 1st. May 1st
May
minutes.
1st meeting. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous. May 8th, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, no opposed, unanimous. Moving right along, public communications. Well, there's a bunch of stuff. We roll up to the screen. So the first one in this order was Doug Costa sent us a copy of whoops. A whole issue related to electric boat, the area, if you notice, you remember the Sasquatch. Sassacus. I keep wanting to say Sasquatch. Sassacus. He's a real person. It's not an imaginary one. Right next to that EV parking lot, where there's an entranceway that he noticed he's a neighbor there, and he noticed surveyors going around. He then threw out a series of notes of what the heck's going on. I did contact our excellent staff who said we haven't gotten any permits. Requests.
Applications.
Sorry, application. So my comment was, well, do they require a permit to do that work? And I think you said yes.
So what I said was that it is dependent upon the where. All right, so if they put a fence in on outside the 100-foot upland review area, they do not need a permit. If they do go across that area, then they would come into the Inland Wetlands Agency for a permit. For an applicant, if they submit an application, have to have someone come out, and I mean, they have the survey going on anyways.
But I think also you don't have to have a permit to do the surveying either.
Nope,
No, you don't have to
not at all.
do
Nope.
survey. That's why
Correct.
there's not an action to take action on, other than perhaps a response to Mr. Costa that says, just what you said, that the 100-foot barrier is required for a permit, and he could watch out to see if somebody violated.
Yeah. But again, like, it's their property. I mean, like, it's no, I'm just trying to, he references birds and wildlife and whatnot, but when it comes down to it, it's
It's their
EV property. Yeah.
Unless,
Unless, Yep.
So that's really what I'd like to get back to him, that says, maybe just that, so, you know, unless they are impinging upon that 100-foot area. There's not a lot we can do. However, if you see anything within 100 foot, please let us know. Is it possible for the town to send such a response? Or is that-
yeah, we can, well, yeah, let's see why not.
Okay, so
It was sent to the Conservation Commission, so like however you want it, but yeah,
Okay,
I
either-
can, did he email it or did he email it?
Emailed it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll respond.
When you go onto the town's GIS website and I went to the website in order to figure out where the road was, where the property actually was. Because I didn't quite understand this explanation. On the EV property, used to call it the EV annex, but that property, there was a fence line of sorts
Mhm.
indicating that. And I'm assuming the gentleman said that the old one came down. That are they replacing it in the same location?
I don't
We
know.
don't
I mean, we don't know until we get an
Uh,
application, we wouldn't know.
I was down there for the cleanup area, okay, with the college students. And there is a fence already established, but it's further inland, inside the EV area.
Yes.
Okay. Because they put that fence all the way around a portion of the parking lot and laydown area that they established with the gated and all this kind of stuff. So and I think they're now looking, from the way he did, from the way this Costa description was, now EV's looking to fence at their property line as opposed to inside the property line.
Right.
Okay, so that's what's kind of confusing. I couldn't tell, I really never saw anything at the EV property line per se, of any kind of remnants of a fencing or anything like that. Because I think when the annex was there, the building, pretty much covered everything, a vast majority of the lot and stuff. So it was a little different. Configuration. And they really didn't have access around everything, so it's hard to tell whether there was a fence there at one time. But there is a fence now that's what's represented on the GIS is the fence that's currently exists.
All right, so we'll move along on that. The second, there's a variety of communications on the Farquhar Park surface project.
Larry, did you have something you could put on the screen for that? That's useful or not?
Let's see, I've got part of the letter from Megan that I exchanged. All right, let me do that. I can do that. I guess it's easy reading it. Let me.
Well, a little bit background on this. I kind of raised this issue because when I got the Parks and Rec flyer, it comes with the mailing. Okay, I noticed that says that they're going to be doing improvements at Farquhar Park, which is up at 184 and just north of on 117, just north of 184. Okay,
Okay.
there's a baseball, pickleball, and basketball court there.
Oh,
In a
across the
parking
street
lot.
from the library.
No, this is way up
Oh,
north of 184.
84, okay.
Okay, just
North of-
before
Got it.
heading
Got
up
it.
towards,
Okay.
Ledger there.
Right.
And so I sent a thing to Mark Berry, says, is this going to be a non-pervious surface? Okay, or impervious, or the pervious surface, pervious, what kind of surface are you going to be installing, just my
Right.
notification. He came back, says, no, it's just going to be like laid down asphalt. Okay. So I kind of then asked around through Meg, we went to Meg.
Yeah, let's get to the end.
Yeah.
So with a lot of toing and froing, there's really three items here. The first one is that particular property, what they're doing. The second area would be, what is the town's position on impervious versus pervious surfaces? And then the third one is, what's the sustainability effort under Megan doing to support it? So throughout that, and I did talk to Mike Berry, did talk to Megan. So the consensus is we support having pervious surfaces. But what's the true cost of that in terms of the cost of doing it, the benefit, et cetera. So there's a agreement that we really need to track and do this. This particular project, it's kind of down the road.
It's too late to.
It's kind of too late for that. So I focus more on what do we do in the future? And there's a couple of things that could be done. One is, and I'm sorry, public communications, we also Liz raised back from the GCA. Also, asked about the same thing. So what Megan has told me was that they submitted an application for funding for a pilot study to determine how do you, and that's,
It's almost like they have to do a business case analysis or something
yeah,
to
that's
see.
what
Yeah.
the write-up there is. How do you do this? Evaluate and prioritize replacement. So it's not just
Right.
what we got, but how do you replace what we got and improve it? So there's, they're looking for money, and she did tell me how much. I think it was.
I thought it was 400,000.
Yeah,
wasn't that-
no, it wasn't that much, but it was.
It's like 20, 40, 60, somewhere in that range. It wasn't over 100. It's in my notes. To do that, I have not heard yet. I think it's not going to be awarded another month or so. But the point is that it is being viewed as part of the sustainability program. Parks and Rec understands that and supports it, but obviously we need to get the town council to take some action on it.
Information.
So the other aspect of this would be, should we consider approaching planning and zoning and the town council that says, should we make some statement about town-owned property? Or perhaps even other properties that says, hey, gee, a certain percentage needs to be pervious surfaces, or any new projects need to have, something along those lines. So I wanted to throw it open for discussion that says, should we be involved, and if so, how? Before recognized.
Okay, two items. One is that on the Farquhar Park, this all ties to stormwater, okay? And going into, and that's what, when I went back and looked at it, this area really doesn't go into a stormwater drain and stuff, so it wouldn't count. Because if we remember, we have Miss Matland here from Public Works on this, and she actually has a requirement to be showing that the town is reducing its impervious surface by 2% per year, I believe. Okay, which is a bunch of square footage that they need to be lowering, and we have not been meeting that Public Works requirement, okay, that's mandated under the MS4 program. And so that's really, and that's what Megan is coordinating with Maitland in regard to how they're going to be better approaching this plan. And they really need to be focusing on large areas to be catching up to some degree, because we're years behind already in the MS4 program. And so you need to be putting your money where the big ticket items are, looking at larger areas that have direct runoff into the stormwater system.
So perhaps then we should talk about in the next budget cycle to provide funding to meet the state mandate rather than worrying about anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I should say too, to add to that point, so Farquhar Park is located within the Water Resources Protection District, which there are much stronger standards in terms of infiltration and whatnot, because that whole area is protecting the reservoir. So it's not an easy, that's not the place to do it, because the regulations are much stronger there, but there are, and truthfully what it is it's a couple of paths that connect to like the basketball courts and the new playground. They're short, small and whatnot, but
As I say, they didn't go into the stormwater system at all.
Yeah.
So it putting an impervious there is reasonable, and
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is already.
it's already done, and so that's
Yeah,
OBE, but it did raise a lot of other questions.
which is good. So, I mean, later on, we're talking about the next year's budget, but. Because one of the things I wanted to talk about is to start to get ahead of the curve and start to do some work rather than responding to the budget. So this is certainly one item, and I would ask to our staff that says it says analysis that came to mind, is not really looking for, is A, what's the state statute required for MS4? B, what's our standing on that? where, we need 50,000 square feet and we've got 5, right, or whatever that is, right? So that would provide us with information to begin to craft a message back to town council that says, here's what needs to be done. So this is really trying to help Megan in her mission.
Can I, would it make sense to invite Michelle Maitland back in to present on where they are? I mean, Tom, I know you've seen the stormwater report. Larry, I think you have.
Well,
or
it's
no?
posted, her annual, it's part of her annual report. The 22 report is posted on the Public Works website. And it says that we've made 0 progress for the last 2 years.
But I guess the question is, if she came in there, there might be the opportunity to say, how can we help? And have that conversation.
Well, I'm okay with that, because that's really what I'm trying to do is how can we help? But the point would be to say, wait a minute, we have a state mandate, you guys aren't meeting the mandate.
No one's being able to see them.
I know that, doesn't matter.
So,
It doesn't matter.
no, I know, believe me, we try to be leaders in this kind of stuff, but it's like, I said in one of the meetings, like, yeah, no one's like, oh, great.
But it's still,
Yeah.
there is,
Absolutely.
at some point,
I agree.
is there repercussions for not meeting?
Not if nobody is.
I guess they're that, yeah, like that.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I know, I know.
So let's invite
So-
Megan for a report on that and not negative.
Well, it sounds like an unfunded mandate.
Well, they do that all.
Yes,
Well, that, yeah, right,
Yes.
and that's where this.
So the
Okay.
the
But
point would be, is there a negative? In other words, if you
Right.
don't meet it, is there a negative? So we kind of like that information.
absolutely.
So it's kind of like, without getting to the whole MS4 thing, because we've already held by saying we want to support MS4 and our stewardship program and help do survey, that kind of stuff. So this is now specifically on pervious versus impervious. Surface. Right, and up to whether it's July or August, I don't want to wait too long.
Yep, that's fine.
Is this just on, fall under town-owned property,
No, you can,
or
If-
does it also?
if somebody goes and does it, you can take credit for it, for the town. But how,
Well, I meant if it's let's say,
a private guy coming in,
a private in auto dealership,
yeah, right.
lots of blacktop.
And we would push them to, we would push them to.
You can't mandate
You
it
can't,
though.
yeah, you
Right.
could, you can't mandate it, and an auto, anything related to auto would be really tough to put pervious in there because of the restrictions.
Right.
But that being said, there are many others where it would be very much worthwhile. And that's what we do as part of our review process, where there's an opportunity to do that. We do, and you all don't know this, but I don't think you know this. And Kristen, we'll get to you. I know your hand's raised. I see you. We're moving to, in theory, in the next month or two, to an online permitting system. And so there's gonna be a lot more things built into that system. And part of the piece that's gonna be built in there is an easier way to report that kind of stuff. So if you come in for a subdivision or some site plan or whatnot, you have to already look at the impervious, but that's gonna get rolled into the MS4 report and figure out how we can tighten that up and what.
So here's a point. It's a stretch and probably not that much property, but for the code. When we talk about the criteria for selling land to someone evaluating their input, we could put in there, you get extra points for having pervious surface.
Yeah,
That's certainly.
absolutely.
We can do. Okay, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I
Yeah.
wanna, as we get to the next round of this thing, because we weren't specific in the criteria. I want to get specific on the criteria. All right, but anyway, that's.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Kristen?
Yeah.
Chris, now, hands up.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
So of course, 100% I'm behind. I think we should definitely be behind this, strongly behind it and supporting of it. One question is that by definition, anytime somebody develops property, by definition, you're losing pervious surface just by virtue of the fact that the building is there, the building itself is impervious, there's usually roads and driveways. So how does that factor in? If you're looking to reduce impervious surface by 2% a year, yet development is continuing, there's no way you're going to be meeting that mark. That's just a comment. Secondly, clearly these kinds of surfaces, we're not looking to do some kind of study about figuring out what kind of surfaces, right? Clearly there's already surfaces that exist that we would just be adopting. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel on this.
Correct. If you read it, can you see the screen there?
Well,
Little tiny.
yeah,
Okay, that's the purpose of the study, the projects to determine what's the most effective approach and how do you prioritize town-owned properties to implement?
Yeah, just as a data point, there's a Connecticut watershed response plan for impervious cover. And highlights anything greater than 12% cover and stuff. And so there's a whole thing that goes into the state of DEP has already established how they want to move
So-
forward on it.
So when we get
So,
Michelle in here, she can talk about all this, talk about hopefully the status of the study.
Mhm.
And answer the question that that Kristen raised about how they calculate this, because you're right, if you keep losing pervious surfaces to new building, how is the 2% calculated?
well, and part of it too is so, part of the project that Michelle and Megan are working on is identifying a couple test areas where they would actually remove impervious
Asphalt and put down.
and put in impervious, plus with the vac truck and everything. So you need, there's a lot of pieces to it too,
Yeah.
but that's the big piece. And and obviously from the planning department side, when these projects come in here, we have a lot of say in terms of, all right, way too much impervious. You don't need that much. Maybe more green space over here. Like I know, there's been some projects like that where there's actually, just Kristen, to answer your thing, where they're actually, where they're actually reducing the amount of paved surface. Because of the change in use there. So they actually are tearing up sidewalk and actually putting in larger islands, planted landscaped islands and whatnot. So it's slow. That's not the, the big ticket items, but it's, it's a little bit here and there and it adds to the program. But yes, we're behind. Michelle knows that, DPW knows that, and we're trying to figure out how to get on, how to get up to speed on that. And she's definitely dedicated to that. And we have a person for that, which is really huge because a lot of communities do not. Sorry.
Question. Over the years, sidewalks, it's been an issue in town. And I was always hesitant about it, but then when I was in the days when I was running and a lot of times there was no sidewalk, it wasn't, when cars are speeding by, it wasn't a good thing. And they did put in sidewalks in some of the area. So I'm sort of a mixed feeling on that, but I feel that there's, at least around Mystic, there are a lot of places where it'd be safer to have sidewalks. We do not have them. Route 1.
Yep.
And yet it's an impervious surface.
Yep. And most of the time unless it's a capital project with DPW, or unless a owner comes in and says, hey, I want to expand my building, my whatever, where we can actually require them to put sidewalks in there. It's really challenging, and because, so like, for instance, I know there's, I think in this year, this upcoming, well, it got approved. The budget that was just approved, there's going to be, they're finally going to connect, Farquhar, well, and not Farquhar, sorry, Paquonic Plains, that section there on the eastern side of the property where there has not been a sidewalk. So we're expecting to see something probably in the next.
So there's a lot of traffic there with kids.
There- absolutely. Yep.
I mean, so
So it's a safe,
the
it's a balance,
the
safety
safety
versus,
issue
yep,
there.
but I agree, yeah. I know there's another one coming, you all probably have driven by it on Allen Street.
What's going on there?
Geez, that's Tabitha's working on that there, so there is a subdivision. They're building one of the houses right now. As part of the requirement as a subdivision, they will be connecting, how all of a sudden the sidewalk ends?
Yeah.
And then there's a big stretch, they will be connecting that and making a full sidewalk on that side. So that's how we get it. When subdivisions come in, that's when we can kind of, yeah, exactly.
How'd they get the cut? Is it because I thought there was a fixed number of cuts that are gonna be allowed in Allen Street when they put it in?
Temporary. That is temporary. That is just access to the site.
So they have another Pequot Avenue.
Yes,
Oh, really?
yes,
Oh, they're spending a lot of money on that temporary.
yes.
There's 5 lots, 5
Yeah, you see the five, yeah. They just put the water connection lines in there, so. But yeah, that's how they do it.
So the action on this is we're gonna have a section on a July, August agenda, Michelle coming in, maybe Megan, they can discuss that. To really focus on impervious and impervious surface per se. Okay. The next, oh, now we're into old business. Was there any other
Public communication.
public communications?
I got-
Old business, open space inventory. I don't know of any changes.
I haven't come in and touched it.
For the first time. Woo-hoo! All right. We're getting stable. That's actually a good thing. That's actually a good thing. And which means, oh, the viewer, I haven't seen any changes in the viewer. Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I haven't given him any. The only thing I would like to come back sometime was having the easements and the greenways, but he hasn't talked to me about it, and I haven't pushed him either, because I know he's had other stuff to do. But I can follow up with him.
Probably as we. 2026.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say certainly you need to have that in place for the OCD to make it easier. to Put that there, but, so that's a plan. Yeah, so maybe just a nudge, just, hey, what are your plans?
Yeah.
Ready?
The next
Nudge Noah in 2 weeks. All right, he's off for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, open space planning. What I decided there is that, rather than talking under the chairman's comments, is that I had an hour and a half meeting with Mark Berry on a variety of topics. But I think I'll throw it in here. One was on Mopra. So I think last meeting, we talked that he is now in charge or responsible for it. And what his plan is he wants to get public input on what should be done with the property. And kind of clear what he meant by that, but because there's historical areas, there's walking trails, and there's obviously wetlands. I suggested that in order to kind of get public input, perhaps there ought to be a video of a tour, which then could be asked questions, which would then link to Greater Groton and then get a survey, get some feedback, et cetera, et cetera. So, and also maybe enlist GCA and GOSA, since they both funded, they provided funding for this property. Before I move on, a couple more things on local. What's your thoughts or feedback on getting public input on the best utilization of that property? It is 168.
Is this going to be done in collaboration with Mark?
But this is Mark's.
This is Mark,
This
okay.
is Mark's desire, and I'm just saying, what can we do to help Mark get that public input? I suggested maybe I'll do a video, because people aren't gonna go out there and walk it themselves. That was just a way of advertising and soliciting people. I'm just looking for your guys.
Yeah, I don't, GCA and GOSA, I mean, Sue Sutherland, they've got an idea. We already have some idea of what the value of that property is from an environmental perspective. I don't know how far you want to go into looking for the general public to give their opinion. I mean, does the general public really need to have an opinion on how the property is used?
Mark
So-
very wants to do.
Well, but he doesn't know what he wants to do, though. You're trying to give him advice on how to
No,
do
no,
it,
no.
right?
He said, I want to do public input.
What does he mean by that?
He
I
wants
want to
to
go and ask
I was gonna say, he wants feedback on how the property would be used.
But from whom?
the public.
Well, that's the.
Well, yeah, but who's the,
Uh,
that's the point I'm getting to, is
But
what
the
public
point
are we
is-
talking about?
You do some kind of survey on Greater Groton, just put a survey out there. Who's interested responds, who's not interested doesn't respond. You have that public response plus local groups who are definitely interested, and you have some input. I think it's like a box that has to get checked.
Well, there's a big, I'll speak, well, my opinion is that there's this big push for public involvement than there's been in the past. So, yeah, it might be checking the box, but the question is, how do you check the box? And by our participation, we can guide how that box gets checked. So that, I'm just saying, what can we do or support Mark or volunteer or something to get that public input?
I want to hear what Tom said, but I.
Make a survey, put it on Greater Groton.
Okay, here's, if you go to the Parks and Rec website today, I got it online here, okay? He's got the Parks and Rec master plan needs assessment. And Groton residents may receive a postcard in the mail inviting you to participate in the invitation survey. Please follow the directions. Don't miss this opportunity to share your thoughts on a very important issue for our community. If you didn't receive a postcard in the mail, you will have an opportunity to participate in the survey through an open link version. Details will be posted on the town's website and on Groton Parks and Recreation Facebook page within the next 2 weeks. For more information on the Town of Groton Parks and Rec Master Plan Needs Assessment Project, please contact Recreation Office, visit greatergroton.com to learn more. So he's incorporating Wolfbrook, and this is what when I talked to Mark, he wants it as part of his needs assessment. He wants to focus, ensure that he's asking the question about Wolfbrook as part of this needs assessment. And so the survey is out there. And just if we don't see that, I haven't seen it either. That's where he's going. He says within the next couple of weeks here. So, but he's always been talking about this needs assessment and tying Wolfbrook in with the bigger survey that he's doing, because he's going to reach out to a lot of people. He has to for this needs assessment, which is part of his master plan update, which is he's required to have.
Well, he didn't offer specificity on that.
Yeah.
Where have I seen it? So perhaps based upon that, I guess we should wait to see what that
I'm not
is.
sure there's anything we need to do. I mean, he's doing what he's doing. Let's see what comes out of that first and then.
Right.
Then
It's
go from
already got
there.
a questionnaire going out.
Okay, so let's,
His
okay, so.
Let Mark do his job.
You.
So,
Yeah, because he's got this. It's a long, process here.
Okay. I did query him on a suggestion. And about would it be helpful to have a board similar to Coprop and other things? And his response was instant. No. I think the quote was, I don't need more people telling me what to do. Something like that. I understand his point. I mean, I do. So I think our view is how do we help, not just create more work. So he didn't see the value. I wrote nicely down. He didn't see the value there. I did talk to him about getting a summer intern, that's oriented towards gathering data in Wolfbrook. As we went through it, he kind of, I think I got back to you, Michelle, and he said it'd be too difficult to somehow fund the town.
well, it's too late to do a summer intern. If we're doing it, we're talking about during the school year. We're not talking summer at this point. We can't, they already started their summer.
Yeah.
Yes,
Weeks
so
ago.
we're not gonna have a summer intern. We're not ready for one anyway.
Okay.
But we do need to talk about what we want to do for fall or spring intern, but we can do that under the College project
Okay,
discussion.
we'll delay that. So that doesn't look like it stand out. He made an offer. Interesting enough, it's too difficult to accept money.
Isn't that crazy?
Okay. Another topic was tree warden. So Jeff Church is working on gaining state warden certification and would be the position holder for that.
He works for Public Works.
Yes. Well, no,
No,
he works for
Parks and Rec.
Oh, for Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff, what's his last name?
Church. So he's kind of temporarily assigned until he completes the certification, which will be later this year. So I said, thank you. And we had a few things, but I guess my view is probably should wait till he's certified. We had a standing one to invite Steve in. Then that got taken off the calendar because he retired. So I think from a future meeting.
Yep.
After certification is, we'd like Jeff to come in and as part of our tree oversight responsibility.
We may want to consider it while he's in training, because that takes multiple months of training and see how he's doing, what kind of, does he need any support from us, show us a little concern rather than dragging out till he finishes. I just
Well, the
offer
training, the schooling is,
multiple weeks,
Oh, yeah.
it's an already existing program.
right?
What we want to know is, once he's done with the schooling, and then he's now got the official title moving forward, what is his vision of?
Well, I would challenge it to some degree that we ought to be taking a look at how is he taking, the concerns of Groton into the training program and asking those kind of questions. Does he have enough insight to be asking the right questions, to be and massaging the training in examples that he gets to put him into the proper perspective for Groton.
All right, so we got agreement that we want to have him come in, but
We don't know when.
before or after
Right.
the certification, that's kind of.
I don't feel qualified to ask. the
Well, I
questions.
think I think he needs to decide whether or not it makes sense for him to come before or after.
I just don't know this guy, and I'm
Yeah.
saying, I'd sure like to make sure that he's asking the right kind of questions. Because it's,
I I think I met him a couple days ago. I was with Sydney Fortner, where we were working on a garden at the town, whatever, Spicer's, the building at Spicer's Park, I think it's the Parks and Rec headquarters, whatever.
Yes.
Yes,
yeah.
correct.
Yeah, he can't come. They are completely understaffed. They only have basically 2 guys doing all the work. They didn't get any summer people in, so they are completely swamped. So I wouldn't even consider asking at this point in time till, maybe till fall when they're done with all their mowing and trimming and edging and stuff.
look, the class doesn't start till September.
Yeah, okay, so after. They're swamped. He's swamped right now.
Yeah, but that's what she's saying is I'm not saying to come in this summer, but like September, October, while he's still fresh into the program.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we extend an invitation
If he's, yeah,
to him that says.
we'd like to talk to you at
Yeah,
the beginning or end of the
well,
program.
Yeah, during or after your certification, let him
That's fair,
pick it. Okay.
but after September.
Yeah, definitely after the summer.
yeah.
I would definitely, and
Yeah.
and hopefully by that point, Mark has someone else on board too.
Yeah, we did, we did.
He didn't have funding for
Yes.
interns?
No, I don't think that's the issue.
No, the issue is that the amount of money we're offering for interns isn't getting any bites. Right, and he was waiting for, I think there was a change in the, per hour that
Oh,
was in the budget.
Yeah.
But it kind of didn't get there, and even that was under what other people are getting paid, so there's funding there, but not enough funding. I don't want to get into it, but that's what I want to talk about in the budget, because we're really not keeping pace with reality. Right, in terms of what people are getting paid to do these jobs.
Well, like minimum wage, you all know. I mean, we're getting a totally different topic about minimum wage and how much you
That,
can do
but
for.
that's the point, but the point, is, I want to stay away from minimum wage, what's the going wage for this work
Right, I agree.
to support the town? Yes, it has to be above minimum wage, but stop saying it's minimum wage, because right now, it ain't helping, we're not getting anything. So that's why, like I said, this whole budget thing is gonna talk about what we want to do to start growing the public support way ahead of this thing. Because I see us getting into more trouble, not less. Because we got more property to support. It's getting harder to find people at the wages we're paying. Right, to support even in the summer. So it's a problem.
And Parks and Rec really needs that.
No,
They really-
I know, I agree, I'm just, so, but let's hold that thought for budget time.
Kristen?
Yeah, I just had just a comment, because I did actually have a sort of conversation about that with him. he said they can't get people. And I said, you got all these little old ladies volunteering here, doing the work for free. Like if you considered paying some little old ladies, like what are you paying? And it's like 16 and change an hour. Because there are lots of people doing this work. There may be some who are willing to do more for that, but I think it's just a matter of not being able to get the people. They just can't get staffing.
Right.
But they're willing to be very flexible. It could be a few hours a week. It could be a couple days a week. It's very, doesn't have to be, they're not even looking for full time now. They're just looking for any warm body.
Yeah, what's difficult about it is that when you start getting people with flexible hours or changing hours, you do need somebody on your staff who is overseeing this person. and what they're doing.
And it gets complicated.
And then it gets complicated because then now that person gets pulled away from something else. Absolutely.
So, okay, so we all agree that's a problem, and I will get back to that. 5.2, plan of conservation development. So today was the 1 page or so.
What, Larry?
Yep.
Well, we're 4.2 is open space planning. How'd you get to 5?
That's what you meant.
The plan of conservation development is 4.3.
Oh, I added stuff in and I can do at my top. So this is the next one. I know.
You have your own.
Yeah, yes.
Your own agenda here?
That's right here.
I added.
I have the same.
You can't change the agenda.
I'm not changing.
No, it doesn't
It's
change.
never the
That's why-
same as it
Everything.
as comes
Just
out.
adding
I get-
stuff.
I get the original, put it in.
He's got the original and then he doesn't, so never mind. So, but the plan of conservation development, whatever the thing is next.
No, well, open space planning is
Okay,
next on the agenda, though. That's what
No,
I'm
that's
saying.
We did that for.
Oh,
Mark,
that was
sorry.
open space planning?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that's what that fell under.
I did say that.
You did
Okay.
say-
Thank
Did
you.
say that.
I
It
missed it.
was confusing.
Well, there was all this other stuff too. I just
Well-
lost track, but okay, I got it. Keep going.
Pay attention.
I'm
in
trying.
Class.
I'm trying really hard to pay attention, but it's not easy.
Ooh. Okay, I want to go through we have 6 focus areas. We did the one on waste management last time. We did get a couple in, so let's go with the ones that were published. Well, the first one here was definition of open space by Mr. Olson. That was in the agenda, right?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, page 14 of the agenda.
There it is, 14. Well, I guess I can put it up. There it is, okay.
Yeah, I just followed the format that you had for the waste management example. I just said the open space definitions example, green belts, greenways, green corridor example. So, and then the open space definition, I kind of looked at that first. The types of open spaces, that we would be changing to go to the DEP definitions as opposed to the 3 that were Groton generated in the past, And that we take a look at open space acreage and key parcels, open space improvements, methods of protection and methods of acquisition. And then the green corridors is a new titling to talk about both green belts and greenways, the historical green belts, and then the greenways that are established now that we have 2 official greenways in the town. And then the green corridor definition, we had to develop that to kind of talk about it. And then potential green corridors as far as where do we want to be going in the future? What I had, as the approach.
Could you add in there, be added to the viewer? We talked about it earlier.
Oh. For what the open space.
Under, I guess, under green corridors, one of us add the green corridors
Okay.
to the viewer. That's one of our objectives. Okay. Other comments from anyone? See how easy this is? Okay. Next. Let's see.
You're gonna show Ann's.
Yeah, next was Ann's.
She just sent us an hour.
I didn't send money. I have it in my head.
Hour and a half ago.
I haven't seen it.
So no one's seen it. It's not,
Yeah, I know, I'm gonna bring it.
no, I'm telling the rest of them.
Give me a second, I thought I had a pre. Stands to waste one. Oh, there it is. Here screen. Okay, so Anne sent this in today. During it, because it was on the agenda to present,
Yep.
so I figured.
She was good.
Yeah.
It's okay, and she's somewhere.
DC, she's in DC.
So she was, oh yeah, she's at another meeting, so she said she couldn't join us today. Oops. So here was the. Was it visible? Okay. All right, yeah. It's a. So since I just got it like this afternoon, I didn't have, spend a lot of time thinking about it, so we'll do it here. So her observation was there's few sustainable practices in the 2016 POCD, which is kind of why he said we wanted to focus on it in the 2026 one. So that's, I think, agreeable. Incorporate sustainable practices in all sections as we go across it. So her thought, I believe, is not just that there's some section on sustainability, but it's kind of goes across. Can I ask, are there any thoughts from Megan on how she wants to approach this in this POCD?
Well, similar from sustainability and climate is that it's going to be interwoven basically into the POCD, not as a separate section. At least so that I mean, what Anne's saying makes total sense too. And I think, she will be starting to look at, incorporation of everything, of our regs, of everything that we do, and making sure that there's crossover with all these, with both of those two topics.
I mean, one of the things I'd like to see is that kind of alignment with the member staff. So, I've got somebody on waste in the department that's doing it. We should have got Megan for sustainability. I'm not sure if it's there's someone else that the definitions on it, but that's yours is a little strange.
Yes.
Yes, it's not quite the same. But if we can get alignment with individual staff so that we're being supportive, not conflicting, is that the right thing? I don't want to go cross purposes with staff who's supposed to be doing most of the work there anyway.
Well, we'll also remember too, is that now the budget's passed. It's getting close to July 1st. Once the money comes in July 1st, we'll be looking to put probably an RFP out specifically to look at a consulting firm to start the whole process. Kind of what we discussed in the past.
Yeah, well, the question is, what are we gonna ask them to do? What I heard from planning and zoning, to get to that again, is they don't want to do the same thing that we did in 2016.
Absolutely.
So the structure of the RFP is important.
Absolutely. And-
So
yep.
when will that happen so that we can insert ourselves, contribute to that?
Well, like I said, I think that the earliest, it's not going to go out right July 1st. I think that's still, I know that this is something that has to be brought up again in the next planning and zoning. I don't think it's on tomorrow's agenda, but I know we were talking about internally about trying to start that process to be thinking about that. And similar, I think, no, I haven't. And there may be some point at which when we get a little bit closer to actually starting with this, someone like get John to come in, John Reiner to come in here and talk about the process and whatnot. But I think what the consensus so far has been is that this POCD really needs to embrace the community more and get voices from the community, not just from like those that always attend the council meetings or having a representative from every commission. I mean, the thought is to really go out into the different communities within the town and reach out to them and say, hey, listen, we're embarking on this project. What's important to you? When we talk about conservation and development, what's important to you? And in theory, as we're going to different parts of town, we'll get hopefully some overlapping, priorities, but also some that we probably have not explored before. So the hope is to really have this come from the community.
Now, along those lines, I thought both the chair and vice chair of planning and zoning both agreed that they would like to have a joint working session with us. But they invite somebody else on, so, because I specifically talked about
Right. And
us.
yeah.
Right. And so then I'm trying to figure out, given what you said, what's the timing of it? I kind of thought it would be September. I mean,
I mean, that sounds reasonable, truthfully.
I know this is a long process and we're
Yeah,
trying to get in
yep.
early.
Right, exactly.
Right?
And that's there's nothing wrong with that, like, so, I think that's probably a more, we're not gonna, there's a bunch of other stuff we're working on too. And so like July 1st, we're not gonna be
No, not July.
pushing this thing up,
Right.
probably makes probably more, we're trying to wrap up the Mystic Resilience project too, and that ends sometime around, I think, in October. So I think that's, but I would say, early fall probably makes a lot of sense.
All right, I will then. Getting additional confirmation from the commission to go push for, now that I've got general agreement, to push for a specific party. Right, which is gonna be September, October, November. Time period. Depending on what's going on. I
And-
wanna get out there before any RFP.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I think too, we'll continue to discuss internally in terms of when this is going to come up on the planning and zoning commission to start thinking a little bit more seriously. We talked about it initially. They kind of got their feedback in terms of, outreach out there. We don't want a huge document that has 91 different, to-do items on it. We want something that's really overarching, encompassing, and really, 4, 5, 3, something, main things that we would like to accomplish as part of this. So. But yeah, really falls under, but again, as in our next meeting, I hopefully will know more in terms of that, and I can share that too as well.
All right, so with your agreement, I will reach out and try and schedule something
Sounds good.
in the fall. Not your technical, you got a special meeting or just.
I don't know yet.
B and Z.
I'm not, I guess it could be a special meeting. It depends on what we get in for projects. If all of a sudden we have,
Oh, you're slaying.
please say, I don't want to say this, we get 3 subdivisions and another 6 site plans, and could be kind of tough, so it may have to be a special meeting or something, so. But we'll see how.
All right. Poor Ann getting pushed aside. So back to Ann's presentation. Thank you, Ann, for generating all this discussion. Let's see. Okay, so we kind of went through. Okay, so this is talking about how to incorporate it in.
I guess I'm a little confused because he keeps flipping back to 2016. Is she looking to relook at 2016 and see if this is applicable, or is this what she's proposing for 2026?
She's proposed for
2026,
2026.
2016 didn't include anything worthwhile.
Yeah, but this whole stoplight thing is, she starts with,
Uh-uh.
okay,
I think the next slide says it a little bit better.
okay.
This is more the approach than in, her background thoughts.
So I guess she picked 3 areas: environment, economy, and community.
Well, she wants to apply how this methodology that you have, how does it affect environmentally? How does it affect it economically? And how does it affect from a community perspective? And you need to have whatever scale she's using, have it turn green for in each one to be a valid methodology. What she said on the last slide.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of see the point.
But some of the stuff.
Maybe we should wait until Anne is here and let her talk us
Explain
through
it,
her
yeah.
presentation.
Right, plus I was thinking, this is one of the ones that's probably gonna require a lot more discussion, because it's something new and different, and it needs to connect with the other things, and maybe it doesn't have its own section, maybe it is something that you need to just make sure everything includes it or whatever. So I think this one's one of the topics that's gonna
Yeah.
require some more time to discuss.
Well, I think it's gonna require some interaction with Megan as well.
And yes, and then, yes, absolutely,
And not try and do this in a vacuum.
exactly.
All right,
And I should say too, like, well, you may know about this, like, so Groton is certified sustainable Connecticut.
Mhm.
And Megan's going through that process again for the upcoming year, and so part of it, a lot of these items, even the ones that Anne has up here. We would get points specifically for that, and she's trying to, we all are trying to go above and beyond what we did before. So I think there is a lot of overlap, and like I've been working on her with some of the flood stuff I'm working on, trying to figure out where the overlap is and stuff, but there's, like I said, there'll be a lot of overlap that Megan will have a lot of feedback saying, oh, besides that, this is one thing we're looking at, we're going after funding for this, so this would be a good priority or something like that. And again, we can obviously get Megan back in too.
I mean, talk about overlap. So the other one was climate change and resiliency, which was your pocket or your,
You're talking about. Well,
huh?
you're talking about,
COCD.
right. And following our last conservation meeting, I think 3 of us were at the resiliency meeting. And I think you were there.
What was it?
And the topics that we're talking about is the Mystic Resilience Task Force. And the presentation that they made, talking about sea level rise for downtown Mystic and so forth, incorporates everything that I would have covered. And yet, there's a lot of high power that's putting together this report, and they're covering the same issues that I see from the conservation side. So they're looking at sea level rise, but tree, land, et cetera, incorporated in this, and they are putting together a report for the fall that then is going to dovetail into the BOCD somehow.
Well, didn't you look out?
Yeah.
So didn't you look out with somebody else doing all the work?
well,
With that
exactly.
topic, that's awesome.
It is because there is.
Well, the thing about it is that that's only targeted to the Mystic side. What about the rest of the town?
Well, but will you wait till they're done with that
When it's
and
done,
then
yeah.
talk,
Look at.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
having
a good,
spent
good.
A little bit of time off the water.
Yeah.
Around town, looking at, I've taken my sustainability sort of portion of this, just looking at the coastline
Yeah.
for the entirety. And Mystic is a subset of this much bigger look at this whole issue. So I think that, and probably Mystic is maybe one of the toughest. Places like Groton Long Point, I think everybody said, buy snorkels, get scuba gear. That's probably, but other areas that are on the cusp, they're trying to look at it from a scientific standpoint of what's going to happen.
Well, if you're saying if I look at the peninsula, that living, is that, you're right, you got several areas. So is part of the plan saying, if I look at these general areas, Groton Long Point, Wayne, Mystic. What would you call it?
You've got the city comes up
City.
3/4 of the way, and then it's Pleasant Valley, so fire district,
Yeah, as you get up, as you get,
and then subbase.
right, the subbase. A lot of the things are is ledge comes.
Right.
It's steep right down to.
Yep.
So there isn't.
Well, but I'm just saying, just from a Some point, if you want to look at it holistically, you take each one of those areas. And say, no plan. I mean, no plan is a plan.
Right, right.
And that's what I was saying, and therefore, from a PLCD point of view, we need to focus on these two. Right, here's the plan. I'm just trying to figure out how do we put our arms around, you know, the big picture.
Well, I'm looking at it not from, say, Groton point. You know, like where it's heavily housed. But I'm looking at what are the areas that are salt mark coastal environments and as sea level rises, the tide zone goes further inland, that we protect those extension areas inland from being developed in the future, that if there's projects that are coming in, you know, those are the best places to put them.
She's talking marsh migration corridors.
Yes, no, we looked at that and said there ain't much there.
There's some, but yeah, this
It's limited.
the airport.
Well, the airport, you know.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of. Because I'm just thinking of the areas that you run up against development really quick. It's some space there, but not very much. It's not like we have the opportunity, like some towns have done in the Carolinas. They actually bought out of it.
Right, but we don't need to deal with those details right now. We're looking at the process, right?
Yes.
And the process is to look, what I'm hearing is see what the Mystic people come up with and how much of that makes sense to be extended to the rest of the
Well,
town.
that's what I
The
was asking.
process.
There's other parts of the town.
Right, but why try to get that detail now when we haven't seen the report yet?
So. Plan is,
The plan is to see what they get. Their group,
The contractor.
the contractor, and this is sustainability. Group,
yeah,
so the task force,
and what's the target for that?
in September.
There's a September I think it's September public meeting, and then October, the final report should be out.
Yeah, so it's plenty of time
theory.
for us to incorporate it into our discussion for the P O C D.
And the only other place that I'd say that has not been mentioned, something to really think about is Pequannock Bridge. You know, in terms of, yes, it's not
That comes right up in.
absolutely, you know, and there's some big challenges for that area
You
there.
got the pumping station. Right there, and then right across the street, you got the inlet with the, I mean, where's the water gonna go?
It's all floodplain,
Yeah.
you know, so there's some big challenges, go inland areas.
It's the same decisions that will take place, let's say, in Mystic, that retreat, you defend your position, or you abandon it altogether. So there's sort of three directions to go in. And it's coming down to that level of detail. But now the question is, as the community, starting with Mystic, what one of the three seems to be the best option at the moment?
Yeah, but I would also argue too that you have definitely very different populations with Mystic and Pequannock Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so that, you know, so the game plan for one, it may work in Mystic. You know, like you may be able to, whatever the
Right.
option, but Pequannock Bridge is gonna be very different, because you're talking about displacing a much more, you know, lower income community, and where do they go? You know, and whatnot, so it's.
Businesses too.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and the businesses too, so there's big challenges away from the coast as well, even though it's all
Oh,
connected.
I'm not arguing against that.
Yeah.
Nor am I necessarily saying economically, yes, there's a big difference between the two areas. But I'm looking at it from the standpoint of not looking at taking the economics out of it. You've got areas that are going to flood. We're at a point where we need to do something. We can't continue to talk about it. So what are our options that are out there? Obviously, in the Pequannock Bridge, they're not going to raise their property, their houses. But economically, I don't think that's on the cards for them. Perhaps in Mystic, but that's what they're going to do. But
Yeah.
but then we have businesses in Mystic. What are they going to do downtown? In the future, the same thing holds true as the whole floodplain around the Quonic Bridge and all those houses. So it's do you retreat? And if so, where? So I don't feel I'm leaving them out.
I'm not saying you're leaving them out. I'm just saying I just don't want to forget about them. You know, like, because that's definitely an important part of the community that we need to incorporate.
That was kind of the point about. Okay, all right, so the net of all this is, we look for that subset. You can't forget about the rest of the areas. And we'll kind of leverage off of the, you're right, Stephen, then.
Abandoned.
None of those are actually good options.
No, they're not. There aren't any good options.
And do nothing also. There's always. do
Yeah,
nothing.
there's.
Right, so there are places in down in Fairfield where they had a whole row of houses on a standstill with a single little bridge many years ago, and it was in question. A couple of early 90s storms came through, greatly damaged the houses, took out their little bridge. They made the town replace the bridge. They came back and restored their houses. They got bombed again in the next 10 years or something. And finally, people said, we're not replacing the bridge. You're on your own. It goes out the next storm. You're on your own
By rowboat.
by rowboat. And so they ended up negotiating, and all the houses were sold. We got 12 big houses. They were all told to take it out. So they abandoned it. And everybody is very happy they did it because they gave it back to let Mother Nature design this barrier beach they built on it. Sort of like what happened at Bluff Point. During the hurricane. So
Bluff Point got abandoned,
yes,
all the houses that were there.
right. Well, the owner said nobody else is building it. He moved the property.
All right, outreach. Kristen and Michelle.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it yet. Have you thought about it all, Kristen? Because I haven't.
What, outreach in what regard?
Well, for what we're gonna put in terms of outreach in the P O C D.
Oh, no, I have not thought about that.
Okay, move on.
Next,
So you missed your homework assignment.
No, I did stewardship. I have feedback for stewardship.
That is the next one. Stewardship.
Okay, so stewardship in the last P O C D talked about creating the management plans, which we've done, right? So what the next step, and in my opinion, from what I've seen with what we're trying to do, we've got to have a staff that's the stewardship coordinator. And I don't know how you put that in the plan or what you do, but that's gotta be part of the plan, is creating a staff position to oversee this stuff, because otherwise, I don't think we're not gonna be able to do anything. So we need that, we need staff, we need to finalize that, the manual, figure what that means, and then we need to start going through all the plans and actually, Tom did a great job with the first cut, but we need to go through each one and do the more specifics and figure it out, but we're not gonna be able to do that unless we have a coordinator for the volunteers to work with. So we need to find a coordinator, and then we need to find the lead volunteers for the properties.
So that does get us to. Well, actually, the next topic is.
Right, but yeah, I guess the point is we did a great job with that first, I mean, what we said we want to, we did a great job meeting that. But how do you,
Execution.
the execution is the next piece, and so that's what we have to figure out, how to knuckle down on the execution.
And just as an overall comment, I think what we're suffering in relative volunteerism is we have some ideas there. It hasn't taken hold, but I think throughout the whole community, there's just a lack of people willing to take on leadership roles or take on any kind of volunteering roles. It's really eroding away as a general culture for the town, and we need to take that in consideration and come up with methodologies and strategies on how to, if you're not going to do it, do we pay for it or do we not do it?
Right.
And take a look at what the impact of not doing it means.
But I don't think anything's gonna happen if we don't have staff supporting it.
Right. But then, but I think.
I don't mean to out of height either, I mean adding staff.
No, I know what
To
you mean. I know
support.
exactly.
Yeah,
what you mean.
that's what is in the town coming up and having a realization that if you want to be doing this, you gotta pay for it.
Yep.
And relying on a volunteer base is not gonna do it because the volunteers are just not there.
And most likely, again, it would fall into Parks and Rec, who is already hurting staff
Well,
wise.
that they need,
Another
right,
position
they-
to,
right, we
So
need,
that's the whole thing.
we
as
need
far
to add
as-
staff to
are-
Park and Rec.
Should we, are we advocating for too much here relative to the open space, the open space? And this goes back to this whole dedicated preserve, though, as dedicated open space, just gonna be vacant land that's not stewarded. You know, coming up with in that rationalization. I thought those are some hard discussions that we'll need to take a look.
That's what I wanted to throw on the table.
Yeah.
Is that the prime focus has been on acquisition. rate. And we said, gee, we gotta really move to stewardship because you get this stuff and really do it.
Mhm.
So, you know, when I represented the commission, the budget, I did support both. I supported the increased funding for Parks and Rec and the open space fund, which, you know, they took the zero. And kind of my, look at what they said at the meeting. So, I think that, personal opinion, I think that the thrust for the next budget cycle should focus on expanding the Parks and Rec budget for stewardship, for getting positions in place, and putting together proposals and plans, and getting the community riled up to support it before the fact, rather than going into these budget meetings and saying, hey, we want this, and maybe, I don't know. Because they haven't heard from the community, all they heard from was the Conservation Commission, DCA, and that was it. So we really need to get more community involvement. Now, part of this might, like I said, I haven't seen Parks and Rec survey, come out of that. So I want to use this thing, but I did no trail, there's no parking, there's no this, there's no that. So, my thought was that kind of tend to just go with what we've done. And we've not really been successful, although if you look at the community, they did raise 300 grand, 200 grand between GCA and GOSA.
Oh,
That helped.
Gosa gave him 200,000, 210,000,
GCA was more than
40 or so.
40, 50. I mean, so, you know, the community is ponying up money
For open space.
for
right?
open space. Now, because it's changing the dynamic, to pony up, not that one thing, pony up money, but also to get the town to pony up money. So anyway, I'm gonna throw it open for discussion. I mean, that's what I want to do is for the next budget cycle, is to focus on stewardship, not acquisition. That's kind of the simplest way of putting it. So let me hear it, guys.
Well, I think it goes back to some of the reports that Tom Bergman put together on each one of the properties. That, what's the most important things? Perhaps beginning of the stewardship, we should do it, it's not being, what's low hanging fruit. And then move beyond them.
Well, I always go back to, I got my poster child to some degree is the Joel property. Okay. It's been fallow for, and nobody's touched it now
Right.
for decades, literally.
Yeah.
Okay. The town's got, 70, 80 acres there. And what's happened is that there's, the homeless are taking it over. Okay. Because nobody's looking at it. Okay. Is that what we want? Is it acceptable? All right. That's the kind of discussions, but it's so the land's not going to change per se. Do I need to go put a trail on there? Not really. Okay. Do I need to do the other things with it? Not really. If you want pure open space in this, it doesn't have to necessarily, if you want to have trails and stuff, make it a park and give it to Parks and Rec and let them manage it. And you can easily back off and not, don't even worry, the boundaries. And if it gets encroached, it gets encroached, but it's still open space relatively speaking. Now, if somebody's gonna start building on it, I think we have processes enough to, from a zoning enforcement perspective and throughout the town, to not worry about it. So, I mean, I'm getting more and more a reality check here is that the volunteers aren't out there for our master plan kind of thing that we had in our plan from 2020 is, 3 years into this, I'm seeing that it's just not happening. And maybe the reality is we overreached and we have to back off somewhat. So,
I don't think we've overreached. I think we the game.
she's got her hand up.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I just want to reiterate something Tom said previously about the leadership, like you have, if people will show up to volunteer if there is leadership. So that's the critical piece, is the leadership position. So I don't know, maybe the people in this community who are leaders have to take on a little more, or conversely, open space in and of itself is intrinsically valuable. So whether or not it has trails, whether or not it has had the invasive clears, just by virtue of the fact that it's open, sequestering carbon, allowing wildlife and biology to flourish, in and of itself, it's valuable, even if it's not properly stewarded. It may be in 10 years, there's a huge push to properly steward the land, but I think it's really important to have the land open. That's the most important thing.
And we have the plans in place. I mean, if maybe this year is not a good volunteer year, but maybe 5 years from now, all of a sudden things will change. Well, we've got plans in place that we can implement once by the people to implement them with. Or it may take 5 years to get a stewardship coordinator in the budget.
I'm just throwing in favors.
Yep.
The focus for the next budget cycle.
We need
Should
to get,
shift the stewardship.
yes,
That was my.
or staff. I think we need to shift to staff to oversee the stuff.
I would not like to see us lose the momentum we had on acquiring parcels. I'd like to see us
Do both.
do both,
It'd be nice to do both.
do both. And in the acquisition department, start looking at connecting what we have out there. Before we're just sort of grabbing parcels within a certain area. GOSA has been grabbing parcels randomly, sorry, but and a lot of them they've now been able to connect them, which is great. But I feel that we still need some more of those connections between those properties. So that's the acquisition part of it. But on the stewardship, what is the demand that we need to make? In other words, if there's, I wish I'd walked all the properties in Todd has.
Yeah.
And a lot of the properties, a trail was put in a subdivision. But it was never on conservation's active list of walking it once a year or talking about it once a year. It never really bubbled up. Joel property is one. Maybe my poster child is I used to call it the Mystic Community Center property. It's up on River Road. There's a piece of property that we bought in the bonding issue in 1988. And we walked it. We said, what a great place to come down a River Road, make a little parking area. And our big vision was connecting with the oral school. And that's moved ahead, that there is now part of the oral school property is open space. Dedicated to this open space by the state. But we've not moved ahead for a trail system connecting the two. One, it wasn't easy. When we walked it, the Conservation Commission years ago walked it, there were certain sections of it where regrowth areas where the trees had taken out and bittersweet, rose and briars, everything else, thickets. And it was difficult to get a beam to go through there. So it got tabled. But it's, when I look at the stewardship plans that you generated, and I was thinking, it's the local neighborhoods use, so when you walk them and you saw some little trails that through there, that's probably an optimum use of that property. And then if we come in and make it a bigger one, does that necessarily mean we're gonna get more people? I don't know. So it's. But I think it's, we always can look at,
That's you, you're 6:30.
Yes, it is.
excuse me. I don't know.
I like that chime.
You gotta say stop, or don't keep going.
Right. But I think on the budget, it's certainly going back for acquisition. Having, getting that reactivated, both of you. You and Tom have worked very hard in the last few years to raise that as an issue.
Not gotten very far.
No, but we did get Wolfbrook. So I mean, there is a,
Yeah, well, Wolfbrook was, okay, they did take some of the money that was in the fund.
They emptied the fund.
They emptied it.
At the time of purchase, and now it's been replenished because of this thing on Allen Street. 26.
Um, All right, so I think my net of this discussion is we've got Mark Berry's master plan. And we should probably key off of that in terms of support for the town and putting on budget cycle. I think his schedule could be in advance of that budget cycle. Is that awesome? So yeah, I think so. All right.
Sure, he's like, can it happen now? I'm
Yeah.
gonna hit a couple more.
Because it, you know, I mean, we're talking a basic. You're talking about skills of new trails, we're trying to just maintain the stuff we got. And putting aside some of the private stuff. Different kinds of things, but, so I would look at that, but I would ask that the commission works with the local conservation organizations to kind of do a bigger push rather than just so I still believe that's the right thing to do, but it ought to be in concert and support of the master. Fair enough. Not saying not, they got the
well,
standards.
certainly. Stewardship, open space stewardship. Funding. Would be an asset. Case in point. We were just talking about managed properties, that would be. Our property, people in woods, they have an oversee board. Other open spaces the town has, BB Woods. Has well-used trail system that's been there for quite a long period of time. But there's still sections of that in the back part of it, back of the pond area, there's very wet and it needs an extension of more boards, walkway.
Boardwalk.
Boardwalk,
Hop on the rocks. Is it fun?
well, it's grown in and you got the briars, so hopping into the brush to try to go around this wet people isn't working. And also up on even on Pequot Woods, there's a trail that they continue to mark. It goes right through wetlands, and when it's wet, there's no place to go. You go from rock to mud.
But you shouldn't have people do that anyway. That's not good for the wetlands that people wander
Right.
through wetlands.
Yeah. Got to get the trails that are.
So that's a
Right,
problem
so-
anyway.
So, on Pequot Woods, one of the things, was they had it was a small bridge there, but on the lower section, closer to the one, volunteers got together with an Eagle Scout to put it in a bridge. That cost money. And it took the town a while, several years to put together, to build, just like the one behind Cup.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. The town, if the town's gonna go put a bridge in, they go full bore, big buck.
Massive, big bridge, a little freaking.
Right, and there's really not a mechanism for the town to go budget, I mean, GOSA put, their bridges are like $2,000, okay? fully done. So it's not cheap. For even for an Eagle Scout project type of thing, but but I look at like example is BB Pond Trail that the town owns, and so I use it to walk over to my son's house, okay, and I'm hopping through mud and stuff, and there are some bridges there, bog bridges that have been just kind of left there. They probably didn't go through inland wetlands to get permission to, determination to put them there in the first place, but that type of stuff.
Stewart, you know that stuff.
I know that. No, I know.
Yeah, but that's the
Well,
kind of stuff,
Some of it was checked with wetland, but I won't say they didn't have all the full blown. It was they had the trail was on dry land, but it was on private property.
Mm,
The private owner said, I don't want it's people walking in my
backyard.
backwoods here.
Yeah.
Too close to the house, move it. And so I had to move it into the swamp area. And we got some permission, and I think there was a Eagle Scout for one little section, and then the town did another little section, but there hasn't been any routine.
Yeah.
That.
Well, okay, so rather than meandering around this, we've got, and it's not just open spaces, it's also passive recreation between the parks.
Right.
So, I mean, both is what I'm talking about, and it's for us for, better, higher budgets for that whole area.
Yep.
I guess our plan is we're gonna build on the Parks and Rec master plan and focus on going early in the budget cycle. We're gonna enlist our fellow conservation community participants to support this. We get some public hue and cry about you want to keep adding field, but you don't add any support to maintain the field. I mean, forget even open space. Right? We don't have. I mean,
Well, one from a strategy perspective, one thing that we haven't done is support Mark in updating his Parks and Rec regulation that lists all what's considered maintained open space, what's made. I've proposed it all, but he hasn't pushed it forward with a referral. So that's another thing that we ought to be doing. That's my point here is that we went through now that we have the list of all the parcels and we know what's identified on the inventory, as far as whether it's protected or preserved, and the preserved is what's in the ordinance and what should be there. And we kind of accounted for it, but he hasn't still processed that. And
I
take
think
a hard look.
is that if he does his updated master plan, that should be included.
What's the plan?
It doesn't say, he doesn't have his timeline is very vague here. It just has bullet points on it. There's no dates attached to it.
Some input, citizen input
He's already had one
Wow.
round, but there's another round coming up here.
of doing that again.
Yeah.
All right, I will,
Larry, let me add one thing.
Yep.
Just because she's not here today. So the other thing to think about, right, in this whole conversation here. So Ann's been working on that social equity lens of things. So, going forward, if you're still talking acquisition, maybe the lens of thinking about acquisition has to do with Ann's potential social equity, social justice lens, and like maybe it's not large parcels, maybe it's smaller parcels in sections of the community that don't have green space near them. So maybe there's just something to think about. I know next month I have some notes from her and you do too. Next month she wants to come back and give her update on what she's doing, but I just want to throw that out here because she's not here.
Were you talking about little parklets?
Yeah, maybe like parklets or something, her, what she's done so far with her analysis and stuff and kind of identified, okay, in certain sections of the community, there's huge amounts of open space, but in others where the population is much larger, there's not much. So maybe it's more parklets or something, or smaller spaces, just something, like I said, just something to think about from a lens perspective.
How is it different from just previous BOCDs? Nodes. Different nodes around the town.
Well, I think she's taking it a little bit differently from the standpoint, she's using the census block data. which is very different, you know, from the nodes from the past, so.
I think we can certainly can address that part of the POC. All right, let's move this along. So I think we have a directional plan. Here. More specifically, I want to talk about NIPS funding that the town gets every year. So in the agenda was a draft.
So moving on to the next.
Yep, well, it will be the same.
I just want to hear what he's.
Okay, so I drafted a memo that I thought that given, the town deferred meeting on this. Because I was gonna push it out and come ask for forgiveness, but since they deferred the meeting. I delayed publishing the memo so that I could get your full motive, but that's nice. So, that's really what I was looking for is to review this memo. And agree or suggest changes or modifications to that. But I could put out from the commission formally approved.
Can I ask? The allocation of the funds previously that became available to the town went to beautification.
Yeah.
group.
Yeah,
And from your draft, it sounded like you would like to open the door up to other uses for the fund. Then,
to me, to
Continue.
really address the intent of the freaking bill, yeah. Yeah, not,
Well, similar to like, I look at Montville's example is probably classic where every time you bring a bag of nip bottles in, you get $50 or $500, something like that. Pick a number. I forget what their number is, but if you bring a bag full of nips in,
right,
obviously from cleaning up on the streets, that's where where that money came from, that bounty per se comes out of that fund. Okay, so it's a way
it's a
for,
litter cleanup.
it's a litter cleanup and you're paying for it to get done.
oh, I'm
As
not,
an
I'm
example.
not arguing.
Yeah.
To take it away from this one group that already had it.
They already have it, so, but this is the
But-
next round, we get these
Right, the
things.
next round,
Yeah.
right, but, yeah, I agree that. It's not solving the problem.
Well, I think that from what I understand, the beautification plan is they're trying to install collection facilities down at some specific sites, like I think Esker Point and a couple other places. They're all
to collect the nips.
yeah.
That people-
Well,
Or any
or
kind of
anything. I
recycle.
think it's more of it's a educational tool. So one thing I heard they wanted to do, and I'm not involved with beautification at all, I just kind of heard they want to do it like a giant glass fish. And they're gonna fill it full of trash to kind of raise the awareness of how prolific the issue is.
I don't know how they coordinated the cleanup with Public Works and all the rest of the stuff. I think they're still working that. But I know that they've gone to Flint,
Yeah,
right,
that's right.
to
Funding.
manufacturers
It's on the
like,
next round of funding. Not
Yeah,
this last.
no, I know, I agree.
Okay. So. The letter was out there. You guys agree, disagree?
no, I have no problem with.
Yeah.
It's just generic enough.
And can I ask one question? Because I don't know. There's no expectation that beautification is gonna get this funding next time.
I don't know.
Well-
I don't know why, that somehow they're saying, hey, I should always get this.
Well, I don't, that's what I'm asking. 'Cause
That's why I wanna- that's
Sometimes
why
they
I-
assume, like, oh, we got it last year, we're gonna
Yeah,
get another.
that's why I'm trying to change the discussion a little bit, but
But here's the only, there was, is the town council came up with their own idea and between all the town councilors have input because they're working supposedly with all the committees, commissions and task force and whatever. So
Loudest voice.
loudest voice won.
yeah, so that I wanna say that.
Anyways, yeah.
All right, so I'm assuming that there's, Kristen, comments?
Yeah, no, I think I like the letter. I think people on the beautification committee had come up with the idea, as I mentioned before, of having, as they have in airports, those water bottle fillers, like free around town, and funding that would be a great way to take plastic off the streets. But No, I think the money came to the town really quickly. And they were like, oh my God, we have to spend this money. What'll we do? Okay, beautification. So, but now I think there'll be more opportunity to think it through. As far as spreading it out a little bit.
All right, so, okay. You already have a copy of it?
I was in the agenda.
Yeah, I think I should remove draft.
Yeah. Draft.
I will forward you the memo.
A
with
clean copy,
the clean copy.
I have to go.
have fun.
I like the draft.
Today, without. Yeah. I will do that. That'll probably be the first thing to do. Since it's now. Okay. We can plan review.
Is that it for all the budget support, or did you have anything else relative to?
That,
What-
those are the two items I had for, but
Oh, because I kind of thought you were having one relative to a discussion, well, the fact that that the town zeroed us out for the acquisition fund.
Right.
And it was sustained by the RTM. And so what should we be saying, what should we be saying for the next round relative to the town, better inputs either to planning, who puts that CIP in, or should we be coming up with a different process to meet up with that it's not working, that you've got a POCD, a 2016 POCD said, put it in the CIP. Planning, put it into to put it on, and now the town council is zeroing it out. We're not getting what we need. So should we be putting something together? Is this going to be a POCD item, or is this going to be how, or are we just going to keep beating our heads against the wall, not getting the same result every year and wasting everybody's time? From a budgetary perspective.
started beating ourselves against the wall.
Oh, right.
That's why I'm saying shift to stewardship, if we could probably get more community support.
Well, no, but we have a POCD action out there, okay? Should we be going to the town and because I verbally said you have a POCD thing, and it kind of went over everybody's head, okay? Because nobody on the RTM has read the POCD. And when you get the opportunity to make a public statement, at the beginning of the process, when the town councilors have literally a book this thick in front of them of items in there, it gets lost, okay? And so is there a better mechanism that we should be going after them? Or are we going to take an approach that says the POCD recommendation was useless, and so we should just kill it and say that it didn't work, and put that into the next and come up with a different mechanism for acquisition?
Well, you get money from the developers under the state. So you gotta donate money or from the property. And you get public contributions on. Public contributions. Because if there's nothing in the fund, it wasn't the major. Funding contribution from that fund wasn't the major.
No, it paid for the surveys.
That's about it.
Hmm.
So.
And so-
So my
appraisals.
my personal thought is, it's hard to leave it in there. But I wouldn't put my energy on it. I put my energy on.
Well, see, I think we owe the town manager, who's our boss here, saying that we should come up with a statement to him saying, hey, here's your track record with this CIP. Should you be canceling it? We should be making a recommendation to cancel the thing out, or do something different to apply the approach to it to make it successful, because it's been unsuccessful in 2019, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24 now. You've got 6 years of track record, and you've gotten $10,000 out of it in 6 years. Okay. So, and it hasn't really helped. So is there a better, obviously the recommendation from the POCD wasn't adequately researched to have an effective methodology, okay, that the town's going to accept. So how should we be coming up with a more effective methodology recommendation to him? I wanted to bring this discussion up from a budgetary perspective. And we maybe take I don't need I don't think we need an answer today. We've got till September when he's gonna start the
Right.
budget process. But
But
I
it's
think
a
we
good
need to
question,
be,
is
we
how
need
do
to
you
be,
bring the
that's our
awareness?
job
Right.
here
How
to,
do you bring the awareness to the people that are making the decision that this is
yeah,
important?
you accepted your prior, again, that was 3 town councils ago.
Right,
Came up with this recommendation. Either kill it, okay, and put ask for a referral to say, we're not gonna do this anymore. Okay, or come up with a different approach to
Right.
how he's going to get it funded successfully.
Maybe a smaller number would be more palatable, maybe they see it as a big number, maybe, I mean,
25.
we all know that it's not a big number, but maybe rather than having them kill it completely, we could sneak in a smaller number. I mean, because it does say in the wording does say shall, does it not?
I would argue the other way around is that this is not it's a small number that it becomes an easy target that people don't feel bad about
that's what I'm
whacking.
thinking, it should be a bigger number.
Yes,
Mhm. Okay.
okay, because the bigger numbers just seem to get rubber stamped.
Yeah, well, right. 'Cause, oh, I can get
Mhm.
Is that way I feel like here's a target area because, I cut the budget, I can take credit, because I think there are only 3 line items that were cut in the whole.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah, that was hard to guess.
and this was one of the 3.
Yeah, and it's such a zero impact on the budget.
It's 0, it's actually, in reality, it's 0, but you took credit, we made cuts to the budget. Okay,
I don't have any answer to that.
right, so let me give it some more thought, I just wanted to bring it up here.
Well, and I wonder if that's an outreach education issue to the RTM. I mean, maybe our
Well,
outreach needs to consider to
the
the-
RTM is rubber, not to say that they do rubber stamp, but they all they can do is the town council, you need to do it at the
What's
town
the-
council
or
first.
then the outreach to the town councils. Like,
Yes.
we need to do a stronger
But
job
what
of,
bothers me was that
Yeah.
the town manager did not defend this at all,
right,
okay?
That's the issue.
That's the true issue here. He actually said, go ahead and cut it.
Yeah, big deal. Yeah, we'll find.
Yes,
some other-
he actually said that at the RTM meeting.
well, then we have no chance. I mean, if we're not supported by the person that's our main person, when we have no.
Our
chance.
advocate
Yeah.
is not there. That's why I'm bringing this point up. I was so, when your boss is telling you, screw it, don't worry about it, we don't have to worry about it. What is the education level here?
Well, we need to talk to him about it.
Based on this 9-year. 6-year
Yeah.
history, why don't you and I go sit down with Mr. Burt? So what the
Okay.
hell?
Yep, yeah, you need a heart
You
to
either
heart with him.
support us, or I agree with you. If you're not gonna support us, why put us through this penny?
Yeah.
Right? And have this discussion with him.
Yeah.
And just want to point out, it's not us we're supporting. This is the greater good of the town of Groton. It's not the Conservation Commission being supported. It is the citizens of the community over time are served by this. That's why it's in the PLCD in the first place.
Okay. I'd add you, except then we'd have to have a meeting.
Anyway, yeah.
No, no. I'm
Three.
fine.
You could have 3.
Yeah, 3.
Okay, let's see. I don't think we have any update to the vacant land review that we did. So I would suggest, well, we'll work on the agenda next time, and we could probably drop that until something changes. Connecticut College
The
project.
only thing I was gonna say is that when you had me added to the budget, it was more on the process. So how would we just say that you provided the, what do we call it? Hold on.
Yeah, town-owned property re-release evaluation policy and procedure.
Yeah.
I didn't get
policy,
there,
yeah.
I didn't get there yet.
Oh. Can we just,
I thought that's the number 5.
No.
Because we just finished budget support. Now,
Yeah,
number 5 is.
Vacant land review
review.
was your review. That you viewed on, here's the vacant land, and here's your recommendation.
Okay.
for disposition, which we said we'll work it into the tope. I didn't get to the tope yet.
oh, okay.
That's like coming up.
Well, that's why I put it into vacant land review.
Yeah,
I don't, I guess I don't, okay.
That's what I was questioning.
right.
Okay. All right, so we did include the tope proposal.
Yep.
Which we think was 90% complete. And I think it, from my perspective, it kind of checked all the boxes. The comment I made earlier about ensuring that the criteria that we use for RFPs is a way of, starting to do things, but now that gets into the weeds and the more detailed execution of the TOP recommendation. Now, I'm not sure, that went to the town council, got delayed.
No, it was some, the way that I listened very carefully to this, the mayor submitted the proposal into the minutes,
Right.
but there was no discussion, and it'll be discussed at a later date. But he wanted to submit here for the record purposes. So it's submitted to the town council in the record.
I'm gonna go see them and say. Right.
But he refused to hold any discussion on it, even though a couple of counselors wanted to talk about it.
Well,
But that was the discretion of the chair.
Yeah, we got beat up on. Well, we've been waiting for 2 years, we don't have it, well, now we got it,
Yeah.
and I said, well, they didn't want to talk about it. All right, so let me find out where that is, because I have not seen it on the agenda for the town council to discuss.
No, that's
Okay.
at the discretion of the mayor.
All right, now we can get to Connecticut College.
Okay, so in the agenda are 3 of the 4 projects. Basically, I took the presentations that the students put together and their reports, and I made a 1-pager for us to post. I'm still missing the presentation for the Baker's Cove. And the problem is, and this is one of the things we need to fix for next year. They send me stuff on Google Docs, but I don't have permission to get into it. And so I thought I had it, and then when I went back to work on it, I didn't have it. When you asked them for it, they're now on summer break or whatever. So it's not that they didn't do it. Obviously, they presented it to us, but
Yeah.
they didn't get it to me in a form that I could then work with. So I'm working on that. And then, so there's 3 pieces of information eventually for each of the projects. One is the 1-pager that I recommend is what we link on our website. The second one is the presentation that is still, that was presented to us. So that's definitely a public thing. We could have the presentations linkable, and I can put those once I get all of them, I can put them in our Dropbox to use. But the third piece of information they gave us is a report. And I believe that those reports should not be public, because they're just, their experiences, what we learned, what mistakes we made, they're not really useful in terms of results or for us to then publish. I mean, there might be for us for future reference.
I don't know if we don't even need to go beyond the 1-pagers, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think the 1-pager is adequate myself.
Yeah.
I mean, the presentations are, I don't think
like
there's
to
that much more gained out of the presentation.
I think there's 2 questions here. We, the commission, need to have those presentations.
Oh, yeah, and yes,
Right, and for example, the whatever report came out of the.
Right.
the-
I will have in the Dropbox, the presentation and the
Now,
reports.
That's question 1.
Yes,
Question 2, then, what's the distribution mechanism? So I was thinking that we could put it on our website, because we had the.
put
Yukon
what on the
project.
website?
Huh?
Put what on the website?
These 4
The 1-pagers,
1 page.
Yeah.
just the 1 page.
Link.
That's
A
the
link to the
one
1
thing, what goes in the website, just the 4-pagers.
4 pages under the project descriptions, and then I'd like to do a link to Greater Groton that says, here's an example of community involvement, the local college, yada, 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 and then we could just go back to our website. I mean, it's just a link, right? So.
Yeah.
I could do that, but, just need an intro, because what happens is there's an intro paragraph, and then there's just a link to the 4 documents. So if you can give me a little intro paragraph that says, here was the intent of the project, and, see below or.
So you're asking me for words that say, here's why these things are posted
Well,
here.
you're saying this would be like this little write-up, 2 lines or whatever that would go on Greater Groton for
Yeah,
her.
if you go in there, you'll notice in the Yukon project, I did a little tiny paragraph, a couple sentences, and then I attached their report. So then it's just an intro
Okay,
to get people to click on the thing. Now, in Greater Groton, I'm thinking we may or may not, because they look nice.
Mhm.
So we may or may not want to do a little more visibility.
Mhm.
Now, do I go directly to IT on that or who?
No, you actually would go to Lauren Post,
Or in
Post.
the OSD?
Yep.
Hey, Michelle?
Yeah.
So I sent out a photograph. I didn't realize you had put together these little one-page reports. They're really great and succinct and good. I just felt that on the one of the wildflower group, I sent a better photograph to you and to Jen and to the participants, but since that's your document,
I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So basically,
okay, but it's on you're gonna,
yeah, which one should that replace? Well, anyway, I saw that you sent it, but I haven't done anything with
okay,
it.
yeah, just on the wildflower group that they had a picture of just the empty table, and someone sent me a picture of the three of the four in the group at
Oh,
the wildflower table.
Perfect,
So it's
thank
much-
you. I was hoping we would have something like that, but I didn't
Yeah.
get, perfect, okay,
Yeah, but I sent it in an email. Let me know if you need another copy sent.
okay. Yep, I remember seeing it, but then I forgot about it because other things happened, but,
Mhm.
okay, so that's why I'll update that one and eventually I will get the fourth one done as soon as I can track down the presentation. Get the stuff.
Or not. You shouldn't be tracking anybody down. If they didn't do it, they don't get on the website. Simple, done.
No, but
No,
no,
that's
that,
not-
no,
no,
that,
that's not the
those
purpose.
homepages weren't their responsibility. They were mine and
Oh.
Jen's responsibility.
Okay, then forget it.
They did their work.
They did their job and then I took their piece of
Okay.
pages together for
You
it.
just can't get access to it. so-
Right, I just didn't get access to it.
It ain't
Okay.
over till it's over.
And it's, so
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
so, but I think that's I think we have some value, you know, and we have a starting point for next year.
Right.
We'll
We'll have
so,
that discussion about kicking off for the fall.
right, and so we need, you know, we still have a, you know, Jen's currently getting back from doing a bird watching thing in Scotland or whatever, so.
So what would be the timing of projects for the fall or spring?
It's only the spring,
Only the spring.
so we have again, like until
Oh,
January. Yeah, so we have plenty of time to,
December, in
right.
November,
yeah, by November, we should be starting to get our ideas for topics, yeah.
the November meeting, we'll have Groton College 2024.
Wow.
Crap. 2024 on the agenda.
Okay, so the other piece then is the whole idea of the intern. So I have the contact information for the person at Con College who does the intern program with external organizations. So the question is, what do I talk to them about? So we talked about, you know, we'd be looking probably at school year. Do we in fact want to try to have an intern from Con College with our commission? Do we want to follow up on that?
Well, I mean, the summer one was pretty straightforward. Right? I'm thinking of supporting Parks and Rec. What would we want to ask
Well, that's the question.
that I'm asking the back at?
So, you know,
Could we think on that till next meeting a little
Yes.
bit?
yeah, so, yeah, because it's not gonna happen anytime soon. What I can do in the meantime is talk to that person, find out what their requirements are.
It's a mechanism.
And then what the mechanism is, how it works. Now, are we offering to pay for the intern? Is the town gonna pay for the intern?
Yes.
And how do we need to find, so we need to find out how much they expect the interns to be paid, like what the process
Yeah.
is? Okay.
Yeah.
So I will connect with that person and assuming that they're working over the summer. And find out what they need from us in order to make this
And
happen.
this would start when?
Probably September.
Okay. And that would be during the school year,
Mhm.
September to May.
Right. Yeah, some of the
Well,
students supplement,
maybe
yeah,
You
they,
guys have any thoughts or ideas?
Not yet, I have, this is, good.
No,
No, this is a good idea, but I will provide an idea to.
yeah, I mean,
you.
partly could be follow on from the projects. It's like what, you know, I know we talked about the whole invasives issue, having, you know, someone pick up where they left off. To a research assignment or working more with the, again, I hesitate to work with the plans until we have a volunteer or a coordinator to work with them because they need somebody to talk to. And I don't want it to be us. So, I mean, we can help them, but we shouldn't be overseeing the work. So necessarily, we need to figure out all that process. But it'd be nice to have.
There will be another eco fair.
And well, I
There-
would, yeah, that'd be another project.
Right.
another eco fair next year. So
But it could be intern too. In the spring, if we want it, we could use it that way. So that's something, again, let's put it on the agenda for next month. And we can pick it up from there. And that's all I have.
And Larry, one other thing, how about I connect you to Lauren?
Yes,
Let me do that. I'll do it. I have a workshop all day tomorrow. I'll probably do it on Wednesday.
okay. July, it's the week after. July.
Right.
Yes.
The
July
10th, right?
3rd, I think, yeah.
Because the 4th is a Tuesday.
Yep. Okay, next item on the agenda. TRB. Because we already talked about,
Open space stewardship is complete.
Yeah, we haven't
Complete.
talked about that.
Outreach complete.
I had TRB
No, I didn't see that on here.
on my, I know that, so I threw it in there.
So this is coming under kind of, I guess, a portion of research and outreach. Well, on last Friday, the Thames River Basin Partnerships held their annual float workshop, and I attended that. It was out at met at Project O at Avery Point. It lasted from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and there was 2 major thrusts. One was to get you out on the river, and we made 2 stops along the river. One was at State Pier, where we talked about sustainability efforts and taking a look at how those are being incorporated in what DEP is doing. So there was a speaker from DEP, there was a speaker from the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation as far as on their resiliency program, and a person from Wyndham, sort of what their town is doing, more focused through their pollinator pathways and their local partnerships with the garden clubs and that type of stuff. Then we went up to Conn College and stopped off to take a look at their reef ball process. And they actually had a handout. Everybody else was just talking off the cuff, and so I wasn't taking notes. It was kind of interesting, but there's a whole thing here and what they've been working on this project for a couple of years now. Okay. And it's being sponsored by the Nature Conservancy, and the person that I was actually making the presentation wasn't from UConn, because they were literally out there working on this project. But the lady from the Nature Conservancy provided the details and briefed the project, because they're actually doing this in multiple locations. They have one here is at Conn College, and the other one's down in Stratford, Connecticut. And the Stratford one is more on the Long Island Sound side, and this is the one on the taking a look at the tidal river impacts, where you put these reef balls in. They various in size up to 7 feet tall, and other ones are 1 foot tall. They have different sizes and all this kind of stuff. But they're specialized concrete that they put in so that they don't corrode and that kind of stuff, or off gas and all these other kind of things. And what they're trying to do is you put them in where you're having significant erosion of the area. And this is affecting all the way up to the railroad tracks that run alongside the shore. They're seeing this area at Conn College. It's just down from the pavilions that they have all the athletic stuff at. And they're putting, over the last couple of years, they've been putting these things in, trying to catch the sediments and stuff through the tide and trap it up and build it back up, and putting it, once it gets enough that they can plant grasses in there, they're restoring the water's edge.
Cool.
Okay. So it's called Camel's Reef after the Yukon
It's the
camels.
camels.
So
Conn College camp.
yeah, yeah.
You're
Conn College.
interchanging UConn or Conn College. You're
Yeah.
talking about Conn College, right?
Yeah, it's all Conn College. So I apologize for that.
That's
I
okay.
get confused all the
No,
time. We
it's
started
okay.
at Avery Point, which is Conn
Right.
College. That's what gets me a little confused. I'm on a Conn College boat, but at
UConn
Conn, it kind of, yeah. Whatever. Yeah. So I'm all messed up here. Okay, so if you want to have information of this,
It doesn't actually Conn College and
Yeah.
UConn, but they're co-located with UConn.
yeah. And then the other thing was that I did do that, Bray and I also, for the Connecticut Trails Day, I brought you guys, you can have stickers if you want. And we did this jointly with the Forest and Park, Connecticut Forest and Parks Association. You get your handouts there. With the Tri-Town Trail. So we'll give you your Tri-Town Trail handouts. Get two of those, okay? So, so Ray was briefing the portions from the Conservation Commission, and I did the Tri-Town Trail portion, and I was also the team leader. So I went to the trail leader, meeting and stuff, out in Cheshire, the week before. But what was unique was that we had the Chuck Toll, who was the chair of the entire state of Connecticut, Trails Day, 10-hour hike. And the other one was the Dick Croce, who's the president of the board of directors for the Connecticut Forest and Parks. So he's Chuck's boss. So we had very high level attention and they very well received. It was perfect timing as far as doing the loop trail around the perimeter of Cobb property. And so we got a lot of kudos from the Conservation Commission. I just wanted to pass that along as far as our outreach
Good job.
this year. Okay.
Good job.
Okay. Very good. The next one was Tarpon Towers, and I think that.
Where we are on Topland Towers is I have personally, we sent my comments, specifically my comments together. You sent them in, they've been received and acknowledged. There's the 90-day waiting period expires on the 21st of June, and then they anticipate that all these comments that were provided to the submitter, the Tarpon Towers people, that they're going to incorporate all those in their final submission to the Connecticut Siting Council. The Siting Council will then have X number of days to review that and then to make a determination whether or not they want to have additional meetings. But in parallel with that, I briefed our findings to the Knowing Fire District Executive Board, which they've had the lawyers have from the Knowing Fire Board and the town of Groton, as well as Groton Long Point, all met and said, who's going to have the lead on this issue? And it was determined that Knowing Fire District, because it's hosted in their it's in their fire district directly, will take the lead. And so then Knowing Fire District turned on to the Knowing Zoning Commission to host an informational meeting, in which I then again testified at that to the 150 people that showed up to this town meeting and the 35 speakers. And so I was the first guy out of the block because I knew the process here, get everything. So, but our report has all been provided to that. The next steps are really going to be how well the executive committee responds to within so many days. I think it's either 30 or 60 days. They have to respond to the Siting Council, to the formal submittal.
Well, this was a response to the letter to the Siting Council.
Right. This is, yeah.
So at this point, I think from a Conservation Commission point of view, I think we did what we can do.
Right. I agree.
So I
And
think
it's really, well, our concerns are identified and they've been acknowledged, and we'll see what happens. But I think this is really more of an issue with between the Knowing Executive Committee and the Siting Council is what's going to happen, the next steps.
so that's appreciate work on that. The next thing on is new business, and this the data center text amendment that was provided by, I think that's in there.
Yep.
There it is. All right, so, I mean, I looked. So they came through and they kind of updated it. I went through it. And I kind of said. I mean, my only comment was where they restricted the size of data center, and then I thought about that size. And about the town of Groton, and then, for us. Probably doesn't make any difference, but we really didn't have anything that could. house something bigger than that.
Mhm.
So, my other thought was that they really didn't put anything in there that would require green data center building requirements. But yeah, then my third thought on that was, do we leave it as it is and leave that for a future fight, or do we want to make a comment about that? I don't know, what did you guys think about the?
And I had no comment to, after reviewing this, but wasn't thinking the way you're thinking. I was just reviewing the stuff that was submitted here.
The stuff they submitted was okay. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I said. I had no issues with what was
what's
submitted,
not there.
but yeah, I really didn't go at it from that aspect. And if you say, but can we regulate, because the zoning, yeah. Does you have to have a group? And what, is there a definition?
Yes, there is.
Because I don't recall seeing that in the, it's already in our zoning?
No,
You know,
it's
at the
not
top?
in our zoning, but when I presented my comments to the town council the last time, I presented there is a whole, communities the wrong thing, there's a whole standard for green data centers. Right, and they have different classifications, you know, like silver, gold, platinum, whatever. I can't remember what it was. So there's different levels of that, which get into how you build it, how you do this, you know, and you know, I kind of thought ideally, I thought we should require, do you want to build center fine? But build it to the latest and greatest.
Use the standard, yeah. I
Um,
think we talked about that when we talked about this before.
yeah. No, we talked about the very first one, but it's not in this. That's why I just said. That was kind of my one major comment that says,
I have no problem with making a recommendation back to them. It's their call. It's really not us. All we can do is make that
no,
recommendation.
that's just, well, they send it to us.
Right, for comment, and I think we
And I
all
think it's a
like,
good comment.
I mean, I think it's a good comment. I support it.
Yeah.
So you're gonna put a memo together to
I think I'll respond. I mean, they sent it in an email
email, okay.
to me and as the.
Yeah, well, I got a copy of it. They sent it to the Conservation Commission. So as the chair, you can email back comment.
to-
All right. I don't know what Bill was, but he had his hand raised.
Oh,
I don't know if you want to take it. Or comment at you.
no, I don't, I'm not on one.
Oh, okay.
That's been,
Huh.
yeah. No, go right ahead, yeah.
All right.
I was on mute. Could you hear me?
Oh,
No, we have a person up, that's raising a hand from God Space Data. And do you have to promote him or something?
No, we should be able to talk.
It's not time for
Nicholas?
public comments right now, is it?
you gotta say a lot of times.
You muted him.
Okay,
Okay.
you're unmuted, Nicholas.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. I have communicated an email to the board and also the select board, and I have noticed now, just a few minutes ago or an hour or so ago, of this going out for comment about the text amendment. And as I think you guys are familiar, Got Space Data in the late winter, early spring of 2021 entered into a community host agreement and a power purchase agreement with the town of Groton to develop data centers. And in this text amendment, it clearly, and you guys touched upon it a little bit earlier, is a little egregious in attempting to spot zone or restrict data centers in their entirety, as we negotiated with the town in good faith in upwards of between 60 and $100 million over the course of the 20 and 30 year data tax community host agreement. The size of the data centers that were proposed when we went to the town and we went to the commissions and received support from the town along with the community host agreement, the minimum footprints were approximately 50 to 60,000 and as large as 150,000 square feet per data center on each specific campus in Groton. There is a piece of litigation that is pending in the Rhode Island Federal District Court that involves AnyEdge, which was a group of former consultants and attorneys of GotSpace Data Partners who went and attempted to undermine the development of the New England Data Corridor and went to the specific towns, including yourself along the way, approached landowners that GotSpace Data had contracted to purchase and abutting landowners, and attempted to undermine, with the support of certain political individuals and William DeBella, in approaching the town to make a series of modifications to basically void out the GotSpace Data community host agreement and put to the top of the list the AnyEdge community host agreement. That did fail. The town decided not to enter into negotiations with AnyEdge because of the torrid past of Thomas Quinn, George McLaughlin, Stuart Bornstein, William DeBella, and they determined that they would not entertain any further discussion with AnyEdge, and that invoked the moratorium that the town decided to put out to cease and desist any communications or discussions about data center development within the town. That does not supersede our positions that we have a bona fide community host agreement contract with the town of Groton. We intend on developing data centers and campuses in well excess of 12,500 square feet. We believe we've been damaged and harmed by a series of conspiracies that have been manipulated and ongoing with AnyEdge. And unfortunately, we have two individuals that we have evidence and communications and proffer agreements with federal officials that are part of the town of Groton board or select boards, no one specific that we can announce at this time. We're hopeful that you guys will obviously bring to light what you started the hearing off of. It's pretty egregious. We know that Groton entered the community host agreement that we thought was in good faith. We know that the town of Groton went and negotiated untowardly with AnyEdge. We know the town had then decided to cease and desist indefinitely any communication with AnyEdge. But here again, we have what we believe is a move with William DeBella, Thomas Quinn, and George McLaughlin, and others from the AnyEdge enterprise to spot zone or strip away or restrict data centers as we negotiated in good faith and entered into a binding contract to pay the town upwards of $100 million. I'm hopeful this board will consider its recommendations. You did already touch upon it. It's unfeasible. 12,500 square feet would not even be the equivalent of an office within these data centers. We were very informative. We educated the town. The town is very familiar with what data centers are and the data campus that we're proposing. And I hope that you guys will avoid disaster and or protracted litigation with GotSpace Data, and spread the message to the town fathers that we'd love to enter into a mutually beneficial relationship, explore green development of data centers as the industry as a whole and at scale are across the board are projecting close to or near to zero emission data centers by 2035 as a pledge within the Fortune 150 companies that are on the forefront of developing data center or infrastructure at scale. And we hope that you would reconsider supporting this text amendment and actually support with working hand in hand with us to talk and explore what actually is a green conscious data center campus and data center development. As 12,500 square feet, we couldn't possibly afford to pay the town $60 to $100 million over the course of a 20 to 30 year plan to develop a 12,500 square foot data center when the average data center is approximately 350,000 square feet.
I think there's a couple of things. As the Conservation Commission, when the original deal was done, I mean, I was a co-chair at the review to try and get the information across. But our position was not that we objected to the data center. We just wanted that it be built to appropriate standard. The planning and zoning, that's who drafted this. So I think our feedback, as you heard us discuss, is, again, against our scope of business or this commission, is to focus on the conservation impact on it. So we're not against data centers per se, but I'm in favor of it, as you admitted, that it be built to, the data center green standards that has, that's been adopted by the industry. So it's really the planning and zoning commission that has I was going to say the heavy hand, probably the wrong term, has the responsibility and the obligation to craft this. And I want to that our commission's input to them is going to be on conservation basics. So again, we're not against data centers. I used to live in one. In full disclosure. So I should say working. Maybe
I was gonna say, that's pretty extreme.
well,
living in a data center.
other than 2000, I did live. I did spend a night or so in the data. So that's kind of where we're at. So I don't know what you were expecting from the Conservation Commission, but that's what we are, want to pursue or will pursue.
I understand that. Obviously, this repurposing of the community host agreement and then the limiting of the size, we're all very educated and very involved planning and use and zoning and permitting and entitlements of projects, within the town or as large as this. We approached and negotiated good faith with the town, and we proposed and got approved site-specific data centers. I think there was 7 of them in town, upwards of 1.2 million square feet on 2 campuses. And we all know this is an attempt to spot zone or restrict or block the development of the data centers with limiting it to 12,500 square feet. So I'm hopeful that you will bring that up and you'll be good, prudent members of any board that's involved in this large scale development that will be in the many billions of dollars once construction starts on these data centers, and you'll support of which I would love to get into along with our development team, the responsibility of data centers of tomorrow that are being designed today to give you guys more comfort. But the 12,500 square foot number is clearly some unsophisticated people at the town trying to derail what we negotiated in good faith and invested upwards of $12 million into the entitlements to get this to this point with the town of Groton. I think it's unfortunate that this is an attempt to railroad data center development at scale in the town of Groton. And I hope that you will talk to your constituents and have open discussions about that, because it's really unfortunate if we have to defend and then prosecute to uphold a community host agreement with the town, which would be futile, waste a lot of town resources, and prevent the town from receiving the benefits of upwards of $100 million in investment that GotSpace Data will be paying to the town over the time of the community host agreements.
I understand. All right.
My hand is up.
Oh, go ahead,
Kristen.
Okay, point of order. Right now is not public communications, and generally speaking, in our meetings, we're not having a back and forth. But the town government represents the people of the town of Groton, and let us all just remember that the town government entered into this agreement about the data centers, and there was a huge groundswell of public displeasure where the public felt they had not had input in the process, and the public was adamantly against the data centers. The public is not interested in the money. So let's just keep in mind how this process all unfurled, that this was our town government responding to our citizens about what our citizens do and do not want in our town. And that's where the wording of this language came from. It was not unsophisticated, uneducated, unknowledgeable government officials randomly doing something. They were responding to their constituents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who was
Chris.
speaking?
It's not public comment right now.
No, okay, at the discretion of the chair, I can allow commenters to participate, and he came in late, so that's on me. Okay, so I've got my marching orders, and I will respond to the Planning and Zoning Commission appropriate to the agreement we've had.
Mr. Dunn, I also had sent you guys an email I'd like you to review prior to your commenting, if that may help you get a better understanding. I thank you both for the comments tonight. You clearly put on the record the town and the town's reaction to the data center, a vote being approved, and then the town's new plan to undermine it. So I thank you for that testimony. And I hope you guys will reconsider and support data centers at the size that was proposed and negotiated with the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, what was? I guess that was that reported chair. Oh, Pequot Woods Trail status report, that was supposed to be.
It was in the, agenda though.
Trail day, that's. That was in the agenda.
I already covered it under outreach.
Yep. Okay, report of commission, that's you guys,
I have nothing new, thank you.
right? Kristen, your hand is up, so you must have
Oh,
something.
no, I don't know if my hand is up. I just, for some reason, I'm not seeing myself on your screen. So I'm just trying to figure out, like,
You can see it.
my hand is,
Oh, you could probably,
Okay.
take your unstop sharing.
Kristen, you want to talk about the brochures that you gave me so I can hand them out?
yeah, well, two things. We had the Bee movie, which was partially sponsored by the Pollinator Pathway Group, which is AKA Conservation Commission, at the library, which was very well attended, like My Garden of 1,000 Bees. I think there was maybe 40 people there.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I talked way too much on the panel. I'm aware of that, but anyway, it was a good evening. Then I went to this I forget the date, but in Stonington, Jill Senior is the person in charge of the waste management program there, and Stonington is head and shoulders leading the state in their waste management process. So she gave a very good and engaging talk about all the aspects of their waste management plan. They have produced this brochure, which I thought was an excellent both learning for us of what we might aspire to do, as well as a great way to share information out with the town. So I got some for everybody. And Larry, I think you and I in particular are focusing on this issue for POCD. So just seemed like kind of a roadmap. And I just wanted to share with you all that was a very good and informative event.
Just one question I have is the lady that you're talking about, is this being run out of their Public Works division or?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know her exact title. Her name is Jill Senior, but I think she's the head of, I don't know her exact title, but she's in the government. She's in the function of, I think it's Public Works, but I could. You all
Go into this as we get into the waste management.
Yeah, that's cool.
PLCD. No, they've done a lot of neat stuff, so we don't have to.
It's like a roadmap for us, because we all know kind of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, and they've laid it all out there, and they're right next door. So it's a great resource for us.
All right. Tom,
I've got nothing else to add. I already talked to him.
report of staff.
You want me to report what Ann wrote in her email about meeting with Scara?
Yes, that's her input.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just saying, we're gonna, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Just a small group of folks met with Dave Aldridge at Scara, and he gave an update on finding land for commercial composting. Scara identified 5 potential places, and 2 options are still viable. There is land next to Preston Waste to Energy plant that would work. Scara already owns property and infrastructure is pretty much in place.
Yeah. So one of the things we want to do is for each of these sections is invite David, and kind of have a dedicated section to each one of our areas. That's why I want to start this real early. We got a couple of years, so we he could do, but waste management might be one of the earlier ones to do because it's a bit more mature.
Established,
You know, established.
Concrete.
all those things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, any
I don't
other,
think anything.
any other business?
I move we adjourn.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
right.
We are adjourned, and if you would stop the recording.
Bye, Kristen.